Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on how and why the narcissist creates this insecurity dynamic in a relationship with others who they deem as supply or who are sort of targeted in their relationship. In other words, they might be very close to them for a long period of time, but there's a feeling of inequality or losing face, losing your ground when you're with them. In other words, they seem to be very combative, hostile, narcissistic rage, narcissistic injury. Basically, when the narcissist does not get their way, there's a very immature sort of rage response or interpretation, that even of the slightest, that it's misdirected, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So there's a narcissistic injury that takes place if others don't sort of act as an extension of them. A narcissistic injury, which means you're not treating them the way that they view that they should be treated. Especially as sort of, it can be, maybe it's not respect, it's not honor, it's not listening. Is as if just to reaffirm that they are the one and only. In other words, the one and only musician, the one and only business developer in the department, the one and only supervisor, the one and only child, the one and only, that has this they can ever give to you. It's a very complex sort of dynamic. And that's the narcissistic attachment to the outcome, that they always want to be in control of the outcome, particularly that of sort of the public persona, or what you might consider the mask of a psychopath. Different from a mask of, the mask of a narcissist, which is very different from that of a psychopath, which is more replete, even down to the very emotions are a mask. So, why is there the creation of this dynamic of insecurity? And just sort of, it's kind of like rubbing things in people's face, designed to sort of create a narcissistic injury or very similar energetic vibration in that of towards the other. In other words, they feel irritated if someone else, or they feel bothered by other people. I would say more so than the norm, because of their constant sort of judgment that they extend to others. Sometimes it's well founded, sometimes it's not, but there's a high degree of judgment. And sometimes these people can be very difficult to work with if they have what people would call a large ego. Someone with a boss with a large ego. This and this with a large ego. In other words, they're not acting out of humbleness or humility, or on the equal level, shared terms and goals. They want to always sort of circumvent this so that they will get ahead even more. But oftentimes that requires, for them to maintain that feeling, it means being dismissive or minimizing of others, degrading of others. That how they are is wrong. I mean, that's a very difficult burden, I would think, to have to carry. So other people then feel that they are then open or vulnerable, to these statements, statements that are arrived at that are based on fear and judgment, because it provides a direct threat. So keep in mind this actual parallel. If you feel that you do a good job, you feel that you are a person who's loving, caring, considerate, thinks of others, is a good worker, is a good ethic, and then they will come up and then sort of challenge this with different things that they will say. So, but oftentimes people then will put credibility of themselves, they will give credibility as dominion over them to the narcissist. So they allow their judgment or their statements, which oftentimes can be very negative, they will take it as face value, and it will override their own knowledge of self and efficacy of self. So that becomes very diminished broken down, or, or extinguished, meaning, nullified, snuffed out, putting out the pilot light, putting out the burner. There is no preheat on the oven. They're not warm. There is no warm, connection or communication. So this requires an awareness. This requires being conscious of a manipulative tactic, and then how others then receive the experience. And so the problem then becomes then, of course, the experience of ongoing and chronic fear, the experience of chronic and ongoing anxiety, the feeling of chronic and ongoing lack of assuredness, sort of feeling that you're never in the right place, or you're not doing what your heart wants you to do or what God wants you to do. But oftentimes that can be replaced with what the narcissist wants me to do. So, then you end up guessing. And of course, oftentimes this can be one without rules, a game without rules, because the narcissist can then, be angry again, exhibit the narcissistic rage, and then that has to be put as the priority. It becomes a constant cycle, oftentimes of sacrifice, of specific your needs, oftentimes for the replacement of theirs, as an ongoing rule of thumb or way of conduct in the relationship. So people then become codependent, people then become egoist, as Dr. Craig Malkin says, people then become enablers to them. Just like the way you talk about enablers of an alcoholic, turning the other way when they're hiding their bottles, turning the other way when they come in drunk, they just don't address it, and they are then enabling the behavior, which is known in psychology. But the problem then is that it creates a painful and ongoing chronic insecurity, chronic anxiety disorders in the other's individuals, because they have really lost the connection to their center. It's been replaced by the needs of another, so it's hard to sort of get that back. So you have to realize the cause that creates the effect, or the why of the manipulation, why this would get the narcissist perceiving, they want to control their persona, they want to control how others view them. That would be very difficult to do. Some people are very good at it, but it seems like a lot of psychic energy would be caught up in that, or but if it's just what their zone, then allow it to be the zone. I mean, that is theirs. They have the right to be who and what they want to be, but you also have the right to your own boundaries and standards, and to not have to absorb other people's negative energy. This becomes like energy vampirism, where they're taking the positive from you and replacing it and instilling with the negative. Fear base is always going to disconnect really a true connection and hearing of the heart. The heart might be the seat of happiness, so why would you want to disconnect from your heart? Why? Because the narcissist has maybe instructed you that it is silly, dumb, important, not worthwhile, superficial, vanity, whatever it is that they want to say. That is their reality, or their insecurity, oftentimes, which they feel that you would be then grabbing the spotlight from them. It's very common, I would say, in the music business, the financial services business, and of course the theater business, or what you might call the Hollywood, Bollywoods of the world, and those communities. Always, if you hear people, who talk about it, or, being in those circles, people treat everyone else as a stepping stone. I mean, that's an example, so if you can't get them to where they want to go, you're, of no use to them. So it becomes a very utilitarian or transactional relationship, rather than just being okay to be yourself. Because if you're not accepted for who you are, then people that interpret that as being unlovable. This would be a very sad or starry truth if you had felt this about yourself. And to be that you are not acceptable to yourself the way that you are. And then people then create, this, almost like what they used to call the shell shock syndrome, when the soldiers would come home from war and they would not be able to operate. Now it's, post-traumatic stress syndrome, where they feel fearful all the time. They've been around such extremes. People, of fear, and then it becomes, really an ongoing sensitivity and issue. And so a similar post-traumatic syndrome, you can read the book by Pete Walker, From Surviving to Thriving, Complex PTSD. He explains a lot of this. So, of course, then the anxiety, you have to understand what is causing that. So you have to be able to write this down and kind of do a body scan. Where do you hold your anxiety? Which is basically because you feel fearful. And the gut check, the vagus nerve, runs and you literally have neurons or thinking cells in your gut. So if people say, I have a gut instinct, a gut feeling, a gut hunch, you're thinking in your abdomen, which is close to your heart, and the heart is the center. The heart is the center, and it has a very strong emotional energy around it. So, the heart then, can then really take a heartbreak if they feel that, you are unlovable, or you've been told that you are unlovable. You've been told, you've been taught to be ashamed. You've been taught that you don't compare. You've been taught that you don't measure up. And so if people then take that at face value, it's like a baton. They just, they pick it up and run with it, and they never let it go. So it's like, drop the negative baton. Drop all the negative statements that have been then living within the body, that have been designed to cause, that transference of energy, that transference of negative energy, and realize you can unplug from that whole dynamic. It's flawed thinking. People have given up their integrity, their I am, and haven't experienced, unconditional positive regard in their life. So it has to begin with you. You have to have unconditional positive self-regard with respect to yourself. Unconditional positive self-regard with respect to yourself. In other words, having compassion. If you are not feeling well, if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling stiff, if you are feeling sad, if you're feeling in the valley moment, you're feeling in the dark nights of the soul, you are the captain of your soul. Who was that? Thomas More. You are the captain, and the captain basically is connected to your higher order thinking, which is where Jesus and the saviors and all, they are all there. There are, we're not going to go there, but it's to say that you'll be better connected to the divine, and have greater, synchronicities, and be able to arrive at more solutions when you accept yourself unequivocally 100% in a non-conditional basis, which means you don't only like yourself when your hair is perfect, you don't only like yourself when this and this is happening, you don't only like yourself when this and this goes this way. You have to realize that the heart is a real, great speaker to you. So you have to realize, if you have, been affected to this, especially in your feelings, then the source of your healing really needs to come from your heart and within your body, and connected to that higher order thinking. But oftentimes the narcissist creates too much noise for others to be able to hear themselves. They're not able to think out loud, live out loud, because there's too many commands, distractions, or threat of narcissistic rage or narcissistic injury in that other party, and it becomes volcanic or chaotic in nature, and then next thing you know, you're the object of contempt, you're the object of scorn, you're the object of humility, you're the object of shame, and you might have been mistreated, misspoken to, and you feel that then the problem is that then people assign this as a permanent quality to themselves, which couldn't be further from the truth. That is flawed thinking, that is erroneous thinking, but it's to understand, well, of course your mind would have thought that because it was based on the treatment. So, but you have to be able to unpack this and understand why this is. And becoming attuned. And so the other issue is that understanding that the insecurity is to keep you off base, distracted, and that not being able to trust self. So in other words, especially with, I think, this pandemic, a lot of people have really been called to task on how to develop a lot of new behaviors and mindsets, especially since their everyday routine is disrupted. Going to work, going to the store, going to visit friends, going to your church, going to your synagogue, going to your mosque, going to the kids' baseball. I mean, all this has been disrupted. So there's a lot of momentum that's going on, which oftentimes people don't know how to put the brakes on and then adjust and readapt to a new focus, oftentimes which is in their best interest. But that this can certainly be exasperated during these sort of times. So to get security, you need to remember and identify with your affirmations and take a moment to say, I am safe. I am safe. I am magnificent. I am loving. I am kind. I am forgiving. I am strong. I am a person of great heart and care and concern. I am a great listener. I am great at just being. And so to understand that oftentimes these inhibitions are not to be interpreted as a sense to be ashamed of. So it's to get yourself into a state where you feel pleased and happy. So if it wasn't for all this anxiety, I would really be happy knowing. Despite all this anxiety, I would be really happy just doing. Despite this anxiety, I would really love to. What would really make me less anxious is. What would really make me less anxious is. And knowing that I have received or absorbed a lot of negative energy, it is okay to release that out of my inner being now and as frequently as I need to. It is okay to release all the negative messages that had been absorbed or processed prior to my awareness. It's okay to release those and let those go now. They have nothing to do with my present moment. And I have courage to be in the present moment. I have courage to be in the present moment, and I'm able to be in the presence with my own heart in the present moment in this time. So, and then you can develop a communication with your heart. During times when you usually have felt low down, empty, unhappy, maybe feeling that you're not doing your best, or you're not feeling, this is how your schedule should be going. You can ask yourself, and have an ongoing communication and discussion with your heart. Heart, what would really make you happy right now? Heart, what would you really like to feel right now? Heart, what can I do to improve your life right now? In other words, your feeling, your center. And your feelings, which might for you be a gut feeling, or it might be in your heart. Some people might feel it up in their mind, or their higher consciousness, or the crown chakra, right above them. But realize as you develop a dialogue, you'll develop more of a relationship and a more a feeling of validity and self-validating will help to pull you out and rescue you. Those type of internal dialogues can be very beneficial to sort of rescue out of that feeling of loneliness or being stuck or not being listened to. Because if you are able to quiet the mind, quiet the noise, quiet the insults and the flawed thinking, you'll be able to become more aligned with your heart center, and then you'll be able to feel the proper inspiration, or balance your day, balance your schedule with the proper rest. Do this and you'll find that you can then really feel a lot better and get a stronger sense of yourself, and also a better sense of yourself, and you won't especially as it relates to others, and you will then cease to tolerate that sort of behavior because you know the truth. You know a different truth other than the negatives that they are trying to sling your way. This is your buddy, peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace be with you, and have a beautiful day.